Okay, hey guys, welcome to another episode of On Point EDC. Today we have a really cool review for you from the brand Bull Knives. As some of you, I assume, who knew what you're looking for when you searched for this video, there's a lot of kind of drama that was surrounding the purchasing and that process, and they were just pretty overwhelmed by the high demand. There was 500 units of these. They sold out within 2 hours. They probably would have sold out quicker if there weren't some system issues. So I was one of the lucky people that kept trying to refresh, even after they kind of said, hey, go ahead and we'll try this again a different day, kind of regroup. And eventually it actually did let me check out. And what I did on Instagram is I reposted and updated within the comment section and whatnot of Gareth Bull Knives post, basically to kind of share and try to give other people information. I DM'd a couple of people just to say, hey guys, try again, because it looks like it's actually working now. So with all that out of the way, let's just get back to the knife. Now, Bull Knives, they're actually located in South Africa, and they're basically a family run business from their brothers. You guys probably know Gareth Bull most, and then there's Jason Bull, and then there's another brother that's also involved. But basically, they're known for Gareth's custom work. This is one of his designs, the ShamWEri, and this is the production version of it at that. Now, some key common characteristics and design language of this particular type of knife would be a titanium frame lock. So you do have, of course, that Chris Reeve integral style lock, which is an evolution of the Walker liner lock. It has a titanium handle, and of course the lock bar is integrated into that, so it's not a liner or something like that. So that's kind of the general gist of it. This is the production ShamWEri. Some are calling it ShamWEri because it was actually produced by the factories at We Knives. So with all that said, let's go ahead and take a closer look. All right, now before we completely dive in, quick customary wristwatch check. This is the Traska Summiteer. I wanted to wear this one because it has a cool little pop of blue there. It's a gentleman's tool watch. It has hard coating. Here again, it's more of a gentleman's folder, but it's bulked up. This thing is a very capable and modern, fully milled, just gorgeous piece. I think there's a lot in common here as far as the themality. And another thing is, these will sell out very, very fast. They sold out very, very quickly. I shouldn't say sold out, but were funded very, very quickly on Kickstarter. Those watches went out, and now everyone's been waiting for the production stock to hit, which is going to be in July. So definitely keep an eye out for my follow-up review. I do have the original prototype preview on the channel as well. But anyways, that's what's flopping around on my wrist while I review this excellent knife here, guys. And some of you are probably already wondering about this action. Let's show you let's enjoy this blade in focus real quick. Let's see the action, guys. Okay, not super drop shutty, but it doesn't really need to be, honestly, because it's short. And the action wise it's very particular, guys. I want to make that very, very clear. This is not a front flipper that you're going to pass over to some knife novice and they're going to be able to articulate it and deploy it really well. One thing though, if I actually scoot the lock bar over, you can see it actually does drop shut pretty well, even to the point where it's just going to hit your nail. Right, so it actually does drop shut if you move the lock bar all the way, but because there's not a huge cutout here, it's one of those things where it's not going to be the most intuitive thing. Now, I'm really glad that I waited to do my review on this and carry it for a couple more days, practice flipping it, because honestly, when I first got it, it was really hard to deploy. It's just not one of those flippers that is just going to be, hey, I'm going to pick it up and roll with it, and it's going to be something superficial. It's a very precise geometry that's on here, and there's a certain way that you kind of have to become accustomed to doing it. Otherwise, you're going to end up putting too much pressure on it, and you're going to end up getting stuck a couple times. This isn't, of course, this jimping here on this little corner. It's not the most comfortable thing for you to misfire on. So I will say that, but after some time, some practice, I was able to really make this thing, really fun. And that's part, for me anyway, of what makes a knife great is the deployment you know, what can I do with it? Is it going to be something that I can fidget with, have a little bit of fun with? Or if I'm in a pinch, am I really ever going to have to worry about it misfiring or anything crazy like that? So really nice. You can see this great over travel stop. We'll go into some quick details. Of course, the name ShamWEri is actually translated as companion. So this is meant to be a companion, a real EDC carryable knife that'll be with you on your daily adventure. Now, these went for $275. The initial run of 500 sold out very, very quickly. This was back on May 25th. Future runs are being planned though. I haven't confirmed, you know, if they're gonna do the same color layout with this dark wash and the blue anodization for the titanium, you know, over travel pivot washer there, and that nice standoff in the back. The blade is 20 CV, which is of course a super stainless steel. Beautiful drop point shape there. This thing aesthetically is absolutely gorgeous. Hollow ground. It has a really nice tumbled finish on it there. It's quite sharp out of the box. You know, but that secondary bevel isn't super big or anything like that. So this is going to be something that I think will retain its edge pretty well. Of course, this is using a grade 5 titanium in that dark blast finish there. Really handsome. We do have the milled deep carry pocket clip, as you guys can see. Really nicely done. It's actually reverse mounted, so you don't have to take it off or anything to take the knife apart, which is a nice touch. You can just leave it in there, and it's actually screwed in from the inside, so it keeps it very smooth, very minimal, really gorgeous. I want to give you guys an idea of this finish up close and the way it actually renders in lighting, because I think it's easy for it to kind of get washed out and just look black, but it actually does have quite a bit of visual interest and texture to it, and I think it's a great working finish. And then of course the tumbled nature of this blade, of course, also very nice working finish. Perfect dimensions here, guys. 7 inches long with a 3-inch blade and a 4-inch handle, just under 3 ounces heavy, at only 2.8 ounces. Really great there. This thing is of course on ceramic ball bearing pivots, really smooth. But let's do some size comparisons, and we'll start with the one that I think is the most relevant, guys. Small Sebenza Chris Reeve, boom, in single blade. Look at this. They're about perfectly matched here, guys. So really great as far as that sizing goes, which means it's ultra pocketable. Just does the business here. We also do have my Millet Knives milled clip there, so for those of you that are just like, hey, well, I don't like spring clips, there are really nice high-end American made clips available, even Idaho made technically, that really suit the knife well. But as you can see, very similar in kind of size and shape. I think this just feels more modern, but they both have that very classic, very kind of minimalist with a little bit of pop style to them. But I mean, as far as size wise goes, these are absolutely perfect comparisons. So if you have a small Sebenza, you totally will understand the size of the 3-inch ShamWEri. As far as some differences, or another comparable, I'd say is here. Beautiful, again, a production version of a very desirable custom knife. We have the Penna X series front flipper trapper. So of course a little bit smaller, a little bit more on the gentleman side there, a little bit more complex just generally because of this way that this is executed with the bolster locks and whatnot. So there's going to be a little bit more to kind of show out on this piece, where they really are kind of, as production, I believe Riot produced this one, where they just go a little bit more, but again here it's some more of a minimalist build, so it's not that I'd say that We Knives probably can't produce some of these finer details. They just didn't have to, because this is such a beautiful minimalist kind of blank slate there. Really nice from that standpoint, and very different when it comes to the flippers, as you can see. Now here you see the little that little nub here, it's on top. So it's more of a, you just kind of press down. It's like light, you know, turning on switching on a lighter. It has a very, for me anyway, it did take some getting used to, because you have to press down and then basically boom. But you do have a lot more room here, so you can, it's easier for you to not miss that. And then another comparable one here is by Ray Laconico, another very desirable custom knife maker, and this is his ShamWEri. This is a small ShamWEri, and here you're seeing, wow, these guys are actually quite comparable in size, but a very different approach when it comes to the front flipper on here. Also milled clip, all that jazz. But here, this is going to be a, man, this is one that there's just so many different ways you can deploy this one, and really not miss, because it does have this big flip. Of course, there is, you know, a kind of an aesthetic trade-off to that, and you're really, as far as functionality goes, though, this one is gonna be one where you're just not gonna miss. There's not much of a learning curve to flipping this one. You know, you can use this part of your thumb, you can use this part of your thumb. You know, of course, because I'm a little bit sweaty palmed underneath the studio lights right now. It's kind of a hot night here in Oceanside. It's very similarly sized though. So let's take a look there, size comparison. Again, so while you're waiting for the Sham, and also the artisan cutlery is much cheaper as far as pricing goes, but also much less limited. So I mean, you're likely to see a couple more runs of these go. Generally though, of course this is the Damascus blade, but they do have an S35. Here we have 20 CV, so you know there's a reason why it's a little bit more expensive. Also, of course, the runs are going to be a little bit more limited and harder to get your hands on. But I did want to share this because, you know, I think there are some parallels there, being you know, a desirable production model that is based off of a really cool custom design. So now, or I should say custom designer in Ray Laconico. I don't know if he ever made a custom ShamWEri. But back to the beast here. So look at that. Ooh. I'm glad I haven't misfired it too much in the video, because I think that's probably one of the least, I mean, it's just something that I just don't like about it, is when I misfire, it can get really frustrating, because when you do, it's because there's kind of you have to put your thumb up and kind of take it over, to really get it. And then, you know, depending, you can see it's not the most satisfying unless you really get it going. If you use this part of your thumb, you can really drive it home. You can see there's much better kind of engagement there, and hitting that stop pin, giving you a nice little lock thwap. A lot more pleasurable when you hit it a lot harder. But again, when you're hitting it harder, if you misfire on this little nub, it's not going to be a friendly, fun feeling. One of the nice things, though, of course, in hand, these ergonomics are insane, guys. I gotta say, this thing in the hand is absolute butter. Even with the milled clip, it's just, there's no hot spots in there. This thing feels absolutely amazing in hand. I can get, you know, say, are there words for it? This thing is a ShamWEri, all right. This is a companion for the hand. This thing just, I get the full 4-finger grip, fits really well. The contouring is very nice. There's the chamfers all over these broken edges. You know, you're not having anything that's gonna really bother your hand. I was a little weary about this little tip here, but I'm not gonna lie, in the hand, it's just, I don't even notice it. So really nicely done. And the jimping and that crowned spine is actually very similar to the benchmark here, Mr. Chris Reeve Knives. As you can see, get a close look. It's very similar feel to that jimping. Of course, a little bit deeper on the Chris Reeve, but it has a similar feel. And man, for less money, let me tell you. Crown spine. Of course, the swedge is much more forward here. I shouldn't say forward, but it's further back versus here. It doesn't start having any swedge till way up there. So you get a little bit more of that crown spine love, but you can see here, really nicely done. And the finishing, you know, look at that secondary. Woo! I mean, are there better production edges than that? No, there aren't. Not that I found. But let me tell you, this guy is completely proficient and then some. Look at that. So as long as I put enough pressure. Another thing, though, that I've noticed, I don't know if this is more of a nitpick or a personal thing, because they're cut out here, their little finger groove is so high up and so close to the pivot. Essentially, if your finger comes in and naturally kind of pulls it here, it can actually, the end of the blade can kind of grab a little bit of the meat in your thumb, which isn't great. So, but I mean, eventually you just kind of learn to pinch it a little bit lower. But if that cutout was lower, you know, I think it would give you intuitively, you'd want to put your thumb lower, and then it would keep you kind of away from there. But here it's very compact. Again, it's one of those things, it's very precise. Everything is very precise. The way that it's meant to be used is you have to use it that way, and if you don't, you're just going to misfire. You're going to get your fingers grabbed. You're going to wear in little spots into your hand when it comes to deployment, and even, you know, putting it away if you're not doing it right. So really nice. The action, of course, very snappy. That ceramic ball bearing pivot, super smooth. Again, if you can actually move the lock bar over enough, this thing does just fall shut, and then you move your thumb, you get a little nick there on the nail, and then it just drops the rest of the way. Or you could give it a little shake also. So really beautiful from that standpoint. Of course, guys, when this thing is when you are flipping it, the lock bar is pretty sensitive. So like if you're holding it this way, you try to flip, you're going to misfire, you're going to tear your thumb up. It's not going to be fun. So you really just kind of have to get used to always looking for the clip to feel on, and then maybe perch a little bit higher up and back on the actual lock side of the scale, just to make sure that you don't end up putting any more undue pressure on there, because if you do, you're just going to have a hard time, because that detent is quite strong and really dialed in. Works really well, of course, with that kind of thumb rollover again, but your thumb goes here, it goes there. It's kind of a C feel to it. You go in and go out. You can do it slowly, I guess, if you really want to. If you want to make it just bank off of the meaty part of your thumb, then you can just slowly roll it up if you're kind of, you know, at a birthday party or something. Or you could pop that and do something like that if you wanted to, because once you break that detent, it's a lot easier, and the geometry is a lot more useful when you get a little bit more of this out. So I mean, if they had just a hair more, and maybe if this was a little bit more rounded, and this thing was up just a hair to maybe where it met flush with the top of the scale here, I think it might be just a little bit more user friendly and less, I guess, I don't want to say precise or prohibitive, but there's just a certain way you got to do it. This is one where there's a style you have to get used to if you're gonna be deploying this thing at any level of speed or proficiency. Really nice. In pocket, of course, nice and slim, guys, as you can see. Very unobtrusive. Even though it's fully milled, it has a really nice slim profile, and I think you get a nice bit of room here on the gap, so you don't have to this isn't just going to be with slacks. You can wear it with thicker pants, stuff like that, work pants. You'll be fine. It has nice little bit of spring tension to it, not bad at all. And I just love these, again, the bevel work all over these, so these edges won't have any hot spots. Really nicely done from that standpoint. And of course, as you're reaching your hand into your pocket, guys, it's just rounded, smooth. You're not going to be hurting yourself digging in to your pocket to grab something with this already in there. So as far as model variations go, again, we don't know what finishes they're going to choose. Of course, if you look at his custom work, there's tons of different options that are all gorgeous that he does. So I'm actually really looking forward to seeing how the next production run go and see if how that batch is finished. You know, whether they'll be the same here. Maybe this will just be the design language for the production units, or they're going to mix it up kind of like he does for the lotteries for the actual full customs. So I can't really tell you too much on model variations besides just keep an eye out. Definitely follow these guys on Instagram. Comparable options go, again, definitely has that kind of modern Sebenza vibe to it. Price specs wise, definitely going to be a lot closer to the Penta X series, or a very comparable knife that's going to be released very, very soon. Actually, by the time this video posts, it's already released, which is the Monterey Bay Knives EDC 2.0. So that'll be a nice comparison as well, and very similar in price points and probably in demand as well. As far as the bottom line on this one goes, this is one of the most desirable custom EDC knives that are out there on the market. It's iconic. People love it. There's a little bit of even lore behind it, even a little bit of drama behind it. But it is now available, quote unquote, available in production form, which I think is really cool. So would I pay super high secondary market pricing for this for somebody that wants to flip it and make more money because they're just so hard to get a handle on? You know, I'm not paying $600 for this thing, but I think, you know, this thing is $450, $475. It's still a value to me anyway. It's that good. If you can get used to that, or maybe intuitively, maybe you got the hands for this guy, maybe it was made for you, maybe you have some production shams already and you want a beater. This thing is absolutely epic. So with all that said, if you liked the video, please do it like, and if you haven't already, please do subscribe for more content just like this. Thanks, guys.